You're waiting. And
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode of the Fox 12 Weather Podcast. Today is Thursday, September 7th, and this is episode 68. I'm meteorologist Jeff Orgeron, joined by Chief Meteorologist Mark Nelson. Hey Mark.
Hey, how you doing? Today's the guys' day only, huh? Just the boys?
Again, yeah, I think this is 2 weeks straight. I'm doing great, Mark. It was, Andy's been out of town this week, so I've been covering most of Good Day Oregon by myself, but, the weather's been really pretty darn nice here in the Northwest. It's
Good
mellowed
team
out.
player. Very good, Jeff. You're taking care of things in the mornings. That's good.
And then Drew comes in and helps toward the end, so.
Wait a minute. Didn't you say you have next week off? Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Something about I'm going to be at the beach.
Well, I've got some family coming into town, so
Okay.
we're gonna. My sister's coming up. We haven't. She's never seen the Oregon coast, so we're gonna take her out there for the first time. Yeah,
Weather looks good. There's your teaser right there, right?
I know. We're pretty excited about that. Kind of enjoying the last bits of summer here in the Northwest or meteorological fall, however you look at it, right?
Oh, don't start that one. No.
I know. How's everything on your end?
Everything is good. Everything's fine. Folks, we know we had last week, we had Brian and Ann on, which is fine. Had sound quality issues, let's just say, and we think we've got a handle on things. And Jeff, your voice sounds amazing. You've got a brand new mic, don't you?
That's right. The station hooked it up with a professional mic. I'm going to retire this one over here.
Yeah, that was a sad little mic. But, we move up into the big playing with the big boys now. So, yeah. So we got lots to talk about. I am excited. We have what we've got some current weather, and then this is our big El Nino episode.
Yeah, so I think the plan here is we're going to talk about the current weather pattern. Not a lot to talk about locally. We'll kind of go into the tropics. I think it's important that we touch on Hurricane Lee that's quickly strengthening in the Atlantic and might threaten the northeastern United States. We'll touch on that. But yeah, then we mainly focus on El Nino. El Nino is probably going to impact our weather some way, somehow during the winter time, and for the good or for the bad. Mark, you're going to talk about all the details, what El Nino is. We'll break that down, and then what El Nino has done in the past to our weather here in the Northwest. And
I've got like 18 graphics ready to go. This is a Weather Geek's dream coming up.
So, and by the way, I encourage everybody, totally cool if you just listen to our podcast in the car or in the gym. But if you're, ever at home near a computer or even on your phone, you can pull up the video version of our podcast. We have that on YouTube. You could just find KPTV on YouTube and you can navigate through that and find it. But you could just go to our website, kptv.com/weather. Then you can see the podcast tab at the top. Click that and you'll find the video form or the SoundCloud form of our podcast. So either way, but the benefit to watching the video form, Mark, is we show all these cool graphics, and I've been getting some really good feedback. Like, people really dig it. I think they like the fact that we can kind of branch outside of like our 2 to 3 minute weather hits on TV and really break down the nitty gritty forecast and the details.
Yeah, I mean, we just have, if you have the graphics to look at. I admit I only listen to it. I'm listening to it on the way to or from work because I have a long commute. But this is probably one podcast you want to watch as well. Or you can listen, then watch, because we like our numbers to be bumped up.
There you go. Yeah. In most cases, you can just listen. But Mark has like what he said, 17 to 19 I don't know what you just said. A lot of graphics that you're going to show.
They're coming up. They're coming up.
He's teed them up. So let's talk locally about our weather. The weather has been amazing since, we had that soaker last week. We had the soaking rain around Thursday. Some parts of the metro area picked up, what was it, like a half inch or more of rain?
I think Aurora picked up 7/10 in 1 hour, something like that. It was some big downpours with those thunderstorms.
Yeah. We also had the thunderstorms after, and had some great photos come in from basically from Salem. Central Willamette Valley got more of the thunderstorm action. We had some amazing rainbows with lightning and all sorts of stuff. And
good stuff.
We saw the light show from Portland Saturday evening. We didn't get any downpours, but we saw quite a bit of lightning to our south. So that was interesting. And then things have kind of mellowed out. So what I'm going to do here, Mark, is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to bring up the upper level weather patterns. So let's see here. We're still.
By the way, I love that. While you're doing that, I love the background for you. You've got some baseball, but you've also got the hurricane there. What is that hurricane behind you? Do you remember?
Hurricane Ava. It was. I think it was a fishy storm. It was like fish food. It was just what I mean by that.
Fish churner.
Yeah, it just kind of developed in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, but it was, what's funny is I got that photo from one of my professors. So I was graduating from San Jose State, and
Mhm.
we have San Jose State has all these old pictures, weather pictures around the department, and I was like,
Mhm.
I want to bring something home. I want to take something with me. It's been such a special time. And Dr. Chow was like, here, let me grab something for you, and just grabbed this
Wow.
old picture of Hurricane Ava. Yeah, let me see if I can turn my
That's a
computer
good
a little
professor.
bit here.
Yeah, I see it there.
Yeah, it's an old. You know what? I'll pull it down one of these days and I'll read the back. The back has some info on it, but it was from one of the older satellites that was. I don't know if it was a stationary satellite or what, but that's not important. So let me go ahead and bring up this screen here. We're going to talk about our local weather. Here we go. I'm going to take you to an upper level weather pattern. So this is looking at 250 millibar winds. So this is wind speeds way up in the atmosphere where the jet stream is. And
oh, there we go. That's beautiful.
okay, so I'm going to put my cursor right along the West Coast here. So if you look closely, you can see Washington, Oregon, California. So
Right.
obviously that's kind of our focus. And I'm just going to push this into time. And what you'll notice is the jet stream kind of focuses over Northern California. And there's also the jet up to our north, kind of affecting British Columbia and, Western Canada, Alaska. But it doesn't look like we're... Go ahead,
We
Mark.
should point out that 250 millibars is maybe about 35,000 feet, if I'm correct.
There you go.
Somewhere in there. So this is, and when we say jet stream, that's because this is where the jets, when you're flying and they reach that cruising altitude, it's up about here.
Yeah, they like to cruise on that windier streak so they can, save gas.
Right.
So really, we don't see the jet stream impacting the Northwest like at all for the next week or so. We might see... Here, what time frame is this? I just want to double check.
I was looking, Jeff. I'm like, what time are we looking at?
Yeah,
that must be next week.
Yeah, this looks like it's next Monday or so. Yeah, so that's right. So around Monday, Sunday night into Monday, there's going to be a system kind of brushing the Northwest. It'll bring a bit more cloud cover, maybe a few light showers at the coastline, and a slight cool down. But everything kind of stays to our north, and we're kind of in that Goldilocks zone, Mark, where we really don't see a big fluctuation in temperatures. I won't go too far into detail, but Mark, can you still see my screen?
I can see it.
The national blended models? Or is it still on the upper level?
We're still on the upper level, yeah.
Okay. Well, what I was going to show you was the fact that we're only expecting highs to be kind of bouncing back and forth between the 70s and 80s in our western valleys. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing because that's something
I
I
don't
can
see
kind
any
of just...
90s.
Yeah. That's the
probably no
bottom line
90s coming up.
No extreme heat, no significant rain. It's just kind of like this Goldilocks zone that we're going to be in for the next week or maybe even longer.
And here's a biggie. Last year at this time, we had those planned power shutoffs because we had a gusty east wind pattern and we had not had really any rain. We don't see that gusty east wind pattern in the next week. So as long as we hold that off until we get rain, that's good.
Yeah. Problem is we just don't see a lot of rain coming. So
true.
While we aren't looking at like extreme fire danger or anything, we are still in fire season, and if something were to break out, it'd be tough to put it out at this time. And that Camp Creek fire is still kind of smoldering up the Cascade foothills. You were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah, there's a little bit of smoke. A lot of us in the East Metro could smell smoke. Air quality went up in spots to unhealthy for some briefly. Then it was gone in the afternoon. So if you've got a fire going in a canyon or higher reaches of a watershed, totally clear nights in the fall, long nights, cool nights, and then that cool air drifts down the valley. I mean, that happens all the time, but if there's smoke in there, then you're going to get a little drift of smoke. So anytime in the next week or so, we have clear skies at night. East Metro, Troutdale, Gresham, Camas, even East Vancouver, you might smell smoke or air quality might briefly go down in the mornings. But the fire has not taken off, and that's not going to happen unless we have a weather change.
And just briefly going to mention before we jump into the tropics here, Mark, we're recording this Thursday morning. I was in there looking at the air quality pretty closely. No problems out there, even up where you were just describing near the Sandy River, out toward Troutdale, up into the Cascades. I saw great air quality, so hopefully it's not producing a lot of smoke.
I think because we had clouds, so we didn't have the cooling during the night. Everything didn't drift down. Yeah,
those fires tend to get more active when it's sunny, when the air is more unstable, and that could potentially happen Friday and Saturday and even Sunday with more sunshine and warmer weather. So let's jump into the tropics real quick. Yesterday we were tracking Tropical Storm Lee. It was upgraded to a hurricane this morning, or I think between last night and this morning. Yeah. Okay, yesterday. And while I was on Good Day Oregon, Mark, it was upgraded to a Category 2 hurricane. So it's on the verge of becoming a major hurricane. And when you look at this graphic here, this is the National Hurricane Center's cone of uncertainty, or the forecast track. And when it says M on the graphic, it means major hurricane. And I think what I was seeing was around Friday night or Saturday morning, this was expected to become a major Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricane. It's moving over very warm water in the Atlantic Ocean. And there's when the cone of uncertainty is closer together, when it's narrow like that, it means that there's high confidence of where this thing is going to go. But around early next week, Monday and Tuesday, notice the cone gets really wide north of Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. So that's around when things get a little bit more uncertain. But most computer models take it up to the north. It looks like it's going to take a right turn, might brush across Bermuda. And then I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this so we can keep describing it. Mark, it looks like late next week, it's going to be moving like well to the east of the eastern seaboard up until it gets closer to New England. And that's when we might start to see some action. It might make a landfall along coastal New England, or it might make a landfall in Nova Scotia. Those are possibilities right now. But go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like it's going. I think the big picture is, like you said, it's going to probably avoid most of the Caribbean, could even avoid the Turks and Caicos. I mean, Bermuda's, it's a little speck it would have to hit right on, but it's close by there. But yeah, so we may avoid an eastern USA hurricane, possibly.
We'll see. Yeah, when systems get to like when they get to like Category 3 to 5, it's always worth watching. I think we currently have like a Cat 4 or Cat 5 in the Eastern Pacific Ocean as well.
Yeah, Hova. It's huge. Fish churner, but not affecting land, but a massive hurricane in the Eastern Pacific. Yeah.
Fish churner. So I say fish food, you say fish churner, basically meaning it's not going to impact land. It's probably going to stay right over the ocean.
Basically, a whale breaches and says, "What the heck is going on up here?" and then goes back down again.
There you go. Yeah.
And then doesn't notice 20 feet under.
So bottom line, enjoy the pleasant weather. The air quality's been good. We're going to have highs in the 70s and 80s. Coast will mainly be in the 60s for the foreseeable future. Central and Eastern Oregon kind of bouncing back and forth, 70s and 80s. Isolated thunderstorms possible this afternoon, Northeast Oregon. Aside from that, we're looking pretty good. So let's talk about El Nino, Mark. I know you were prepping for this for days and days. Yeah.
Here we go. We're going to be sharing. Yeah, so El Nino, it became obvious that there was probably going to be an El Nino during this coming winter. Probably in the spring it started, and now it's happening. I mean, it's already here. All right, so what is El Nino? I got these graphics just to show you. We've used these on TV, but it's a warming of the tropical Pacific. And Jeff, of course, cut me off at any point if I've missed something or you have something to add.
I'll just kind of like pepper in my thoughts here and there.
But not yet. I'm not done yet. No, I'm just kidding. So warmer ocean, it affects the weather just all around the globe. And this image we use on TV here, that just shows warmer than average sea surface temps. Let me jump to another one.
Wait, leave that up for a sec.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what Mark means by that is if a temperature, like if the sea surface temperatures were where they should be, where they like normally are, you wouldn't see as many colors on the map. So up
You'd
to the
see
north.
None on this map. Yeah, if everything was perfectly normal for its latitude and time of the year, there would be no color on this map.
But this has a warm anomaly. So, and
yeah,
there you go.
Here's another version. So this one just shows the anomaly all around the globe, and you can see if you look. Let's go. It zooms in right here. Yeah,
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, along the equator, you can see much warmer than normal from Peru all the way towards towards between Tahiti and I don't know what those other little dots are. Okay. And look at the North Pacific too. Holy cow. The entire North Pacific is warmer than average. All right. So next one.
Wait, let's stay on that for a sec. So we look at the sea surface temperatures in the tropical Pacific Ocean, determining whether we have El Nino or La Nina developing. If an El Nino is developing, that means that the eastern side of the tropical Pacific is seeing warmer sea surface temperatures than normal. If a La Nina were developing like the last 3 years, then we would have warmer than normal sea surface temperatures on the opposite side of the Pacific Ocean, west side.
Right. And the last 3 winters, like you said, have been La Nina. And your first thought is, okay, wait, why do I care what's going on near Tahiti or Peru? But the deal is, if you have such a massive warm water, it affects the weather all around the globe. There are all sorts of kind of known effects. There are some maybe unknown effects, or, every time there's an El Nino, something changes. So all models, here's the deal. It's that way now. All models are forecasting either a moderate or strong event. So let's see. I've got right here.
Do you have that? Okay, there you go.
Oh, I got it all, Jeff. I got it all. So this is this is actually a few weeks old, but this is there's an area in the middle. Actually, I think I have a better one. Hang on. Here it is. This one. Yeah. Okay. So you're like, wow, that's a lot of numbers. So there's an area. See the lower left down here? Yeah. So that warm area that we saw, there's Mexico, Peru right there, and then they call these different regions in the tropical Pacific Niño regions. There's a 1 and 2, there's a 3, there's a 3.4, and a 4. We often concentrate on that middle region, 3.4, or meteorologists do. And right now it's up to a plus 1.6, and the threshold for an El Nino in that region is a 0.5. So 0.5 to 1 is a weak El Nino. A 1 to a 1.5 is a moderate El Nino, and a 1.5 or higher is a strong El Nino. So look at that. We've crossed 1.6. So in this last week, we've crossed to 1.6, which is a strong El Nino. So that's the real-time conditions. Something called the Oceanic Nino Index, which averages over a longer period of time. That's still in the moderate category. But if we just go to this graphic here, this shows from several different models. And I zoomed in too far. Down at the bottom, can you see that? Probably hard to see.
Yep.
These are 3-month periods: July, August, September, October, November. So this is what's already occurred here on the left side. We're at about a 1.1. Most models, the average of the dynamic models is bringing it up to a strong El Nino in that region all the way through the winter. Even the weaker models have a moderate El Nino. So that's why I say it's pretty obvious that we're going to have a. I'm trying to find my other graphics. Let me get out of here. It's pretty obvious we're going to have a strong or moderate El Nino. Let me back out of here.
There you go.
Back out. Oh, there's more buttons there. Huh, what do you know? And then, so let me hit my other graphic here. What do we see during these winters? All right. So and let me point out, when we talk about all this, it's not as if El Nino is the only factor with our weather, right? In the winter, there's other things going on, warming of the oceans, other stuff happens. But this is just one thing we tend to see in El Nino winters. We tend to see more high pressure up in Western Canada more often in the upper atmosphere. So the jet stream we get more splittiness, I've noticed, in El Nino winters. There's more splitting of the jet stream. The southern part of the jet tends to be stronger in these winters heading into California. Jeff, you've been in California. Is that what people down there, do they kind of think, ooh, El Nino, sometimes that's a wet winter, right?
Yeah. That's exactly. They think El Nino means rain in Southern California is what they think, which obviously is not totally true.
True. But so we tend to see more of that splitting.
Wait, let's go back to that.
I can go back. I can go back. Yep.
Let's talk about why theories or,
go ahead.
I think the main reason why we see an activation of that southerly jet during an El Nino event is when the water warms up in the eastern Pacific Ocean and the tropical Pacific Ocean, it injects a lot of energy into the atmosphere, right? Or heat into the atmosphere. And that tends to activate that southerly jet as opposed to a jet farther to the north or over the western Pacific Ocean. And so that activation, the jet stream tends to be a main driver of storm systems and precipitation. And so that often tends to bring more active weather patterns to Southern California and much of the southern United States. In fact, I've heard it, innuendos, or not necessarily that, but like anecdotally.
Ooh, innuendos. That sounds spicy, Jeff.
Anecdotally, people, meteorologists in the southern U.S. and the southeast U.S. are saying this could be a active, severe weather season in terms of the winter.
Sure.
Maybe down in Florida and things like that. So the southern half of the U.S. tends to get more active weather in El Nino events versus the northern half. And Mark, you and I were talking on the way before we started this podcast. You said that you were going to compare some previous years.
Right. I've got some coming up here.
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself though.
No, that's okay. So the general pattern is drier and warmer than normal across the northwestern USA over into the plains, and then wetter than normal across California. But big message here, most El Ninos follow that pattern, but not all. So yeah, some years, here's one right here. Let me go back to this graphic. Big El Nino years, when you have a really strong El Nino, there have been years where that southern jet just comes all the way up into the Pacific Northwest, and we get a really mild, wet winter. This did happen in 2015. Do I have that graphic? I think I have a 2015.
A little
Jeff, I got a
Pineapple
graphic for
Express?
everything.
A little
Here it
Pineapple
is.
Express, maybe?
December 2015, that was a strong El Nino year. In that month, look how much it rained. 30, 35 inches of rain in 1 month in the Coast Range, 22
1
inches at Sonoma,
month.
20 at Astoria.
Wow. That's
I
impressive.
think that was downtown Portland's greatest rainfall, or was it I think the airport had 15 inches of rain that month. Lots of flooding, lots of mudslides. So that we can get that southern stream to come all the way up north, and then we have big issues with flooding or whatnot. So that can be a problem. Oops, let me back out of here. So again, that just means there's a good chance we have a mild winter ahead. Like when we look back at this coming winter, I bet you it's going to be warmer than normal. All right.
But what about the Farmer's Almanac?
Oh, stop. Just stop. What does the Farmer's Almanac say this year?
I think it was saying that we're going to have this big snowy winter or something like that.
Oh, geez. Yeah. They don't know what
and
they're
I'm
talking
joking,
about.
of course. You never want to take your the Farmer's Almanac seriously. And if you're a betting man, Mark, you're probably leaning toward the opposite, right?
Yeah, I think so. I would bet towards milder and drier than normal. But biggie, here's a big one, folks. But that means we can still get brief snow or ice storm events during a mild winter. The one that really sticks out, the huge El Nino in 97, 98, the whole winter was mild. Lots of, instead of rainy days with a high of 45 or 48 in Portland, we had lots of rainy days with highs 51, 53 degrees instead, just a bit warmer. But in that winter, there was a 3-day stretch where Arctic air got pulled down through the gorge. We had a huge snow, and mostly snow, not so much ice. No, there was ice in that one. But January of 98, big snow and ice storm. I remember sitting at the Troutdale truck stop for 2 different days doing coverage. That was when I was working at Coin. And then I remember shoveling snow as sunshine or partly cloudy skies and 53-degree weather returned on the south wind. The snow gets really heavy, by the way, when that happens. But then we were right back into the mild stuff, and nothing happened the rest of the winter. So something can still, make it through when we have these types of winters.
Just to kind of branch off of what you're saying, if we have a lot more days in the 50s, low 60s, rainy, things like that, that means higher snow levels, and that would mean a suffering
which I'll
snowpack.
cover in a second. Oh, yeah, yep. I've got that one coming up, too. Cool. I know this is a spreadsheet. We don't normally show you a spreadsheet. I do have a spreadsheet because, I like to have a spreadsheet for everything, right? And, yeah, I know you can't see this that well. The numbers are small. But the last strong El Nino we had was in 2015, 2016. That year we had 1 inch of snow in downtown Portland, 1 inch at the airport. We had a strong El Nino in 2009, 2010. We had 3 inches downtown, 2.5 inches at the airport. As I recall, that we had a big cold spell in in December of 2009, but I don't think we had much snow with that. The snow came in a separate little event, as I recall. We go to a strong El Nino before that, 97, 98. Again, 8.7 inches of snow at the airport because we had that one event. The rest of the winter, nothing happened. And then you see the other highlighted strong El Ninos, 91, 92. That was my first year forecasting out of college here in Portland. And it was just such a boring winter. Nothing happened, and spring just kind of started in late February. 87, 88, strong El Nino. When did that snow fall? Was that? I don't remember what. I just remember not much happening that winter. But somehow we got 3.5 inches of snow. 82, 83, very warm and wet, no snow. So that just gives you some ideas of what we might see. Now, let me see. I think I got one more here. Nope. Let's not do that one. Here we go. Let's do some modeling. This is the NMME, which is like a compilation of models. This is December, January, February precipitation. Above average would be green. Below average would be the darker colors. I'm sorry, the reddish colors, orange and red. And what sticks out there for December, January, February?
Dry.
Yeah, drier than normal. This is modeling forecast. This is not what has occurred in the past. Here is, that's the same thing. Oh, no, December, January, February. That one's hard to see. Let's get that one.
Can you go back to the other one really quick?
I sure can.
We were kind of focusing on the Northwest there. But check out
There you go.
California. Check out California and check out Florida and southern Georgia, like the southeast.
There's that southern jet. So wetter than normal California, wetter than normal across the southeast.
Yeah.
There. That's a compilation of several different models. I don't know if that includes the Euro.
Remember, folks, it's not like necessarily going to happen, but the fact that it's leaning that way is El Nino-esque.
And here's another thing. We say, El Nino affects our weather in the winter. This is the current sea surface temperature anomaly. Look at that big blob of
Yeah.
warmer than normal water. I mean, that's 10 degrees Fahrenheit above average sitting out there. So how does that affect us this winter?
Yeah.
Who knows? We will see. But in some El Nino winters, it's been cooler, a little cooler than average off the coastline. So, we don't know how those effects will play out, either low in the atmosphere or high up in the atmosphere. I thought I had a Euro forecast here. If I went through this whole thing, I'm going to be disappointed with myself if I don't have a Euro forecast. Is that it? No.
That would be unlike you to leave out the Euro. Are you kidding me?
I did, boy. This is a historic day, Jeff. I don't have the Euro here. The Euro forecast is
if we could get like sponsorships by model, Mark would be sponsored by the European model.
Oh, don't you worry. They're going to upgrade the GFS in 2026. Did you hear about that?
I did not.
The GFS model? Yeah, there's some issue with the computing or something, and they will no more. I think there's no significant upgrade to the GFS for another 2 years.
Great.
Yeah. Here's another effect. Here's one thing that I think is very likely this year. It seems like this almost always happens in El Nino years. February, we tend to see in many El Nino years kind of a lot of action in November, December, and then as more of the jet shifts to the south into California, later January and February and early March at least, we tend to go very mild. Most Februaries in El Nino years are mild. Almost every single one is. This is 2016. This was 2016. Very warm. It was warmer than a typical March, that February. Looks like I forked. What is that picture? Looks like I'm forking winter.
That's really interesting, Mark, because I know you've showed some graphics lately, like about our previous winters and how things have trended more to like a later winter snow event. Like we tend to see. And if this were to play out to where we see more mild conditions February, March, it could really impact snowfall down in the lowlands.
Right. I think this is the one winter, a meteorologist, I don't have plans for this, but this is the one winter believe it or not, I told my wife this. I go, oh, it's an El Nino winter. I think we could probably do a late February vacation and be fine. I'm not going to because for other reasons, but I think this is the one year where it's very unlikely we have low snow levels late in the season. We've had a lot of that, but here's a big caveat. In 2018-19, was that the first year? Yes, Jeff, that was when you first started. Remember March 2019?
Yes.
That was really weird because we had extremely mild winter. I have it listed on another graphic. It said the most boring winter of my career that year. That was a weak or moderate El Nino. And in that one, suddenly we got this northerly flow in mid-February, and that hung around for a month. And we had snow in Eastern Oregon, a record cold.
We had snow at the coast.
That was an El Nino winter. That said, it was a weak to moderate, so maybe that wouldn't happen this year. I think that was one of the only instances of a cold spell at the end of an El Nino winter. So I wouldn't, if I were a betting man, I wouldn't go for that again. But that's really unusual to see that happen. Oh, let's do snowfall, Jeff. Mountain snow.
Perfect.
Right here is this.
Ooh, okay. Everybody that is into skiing and snowboarding, you might want to listen up a little bit closer here.
All right. So if we just take government camp snow only. So this is just down at 4,000 feet. The ODOT folks have been recording snowfall forever there. One thing that sticks out, what do you see, Jeff? What sticks out here? The average versus what we get.
Let's see. The average, man, it seems like things are dropping off a little bit.
Yeah, and every single El Nino since I was born.
This is only years? El Nino years. Got it. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So more often than not, what I'm seeing, Mark, is below the average during El Nino years. We
haven't had a single above average El Nino winter at government camp, snowfall wise, since the 1960s.
Okay, that's 60s back there. Okay, wow,
yeah.
Oh man, and I'm thinking about Ski Bowl because they're right around that elevation.
We love Ski Bowl, but it's just more challenging because we tend to get warmer systems when we do get them. It tends to be the problem. Or some of these include, this one was terrible, 2014-15, 67 inches.
Oof.
Or 2004, there were several years, 2004, 2005, I remember that was just a terrible year. That may have been a year where Ski Bowl was only open for a few weeks. And there were continuing issues up at Meadows and Timberline too, just very low snowpack. Those are unusual though. Same with 91, 92. Remember I said that was that first boring winter, my very first year of my career. But most years are, these last three El Ninos, they got a decent amount of snow at some point. Even 15, 16, when I said it was very mild in February of 2016, sometimes they've gotten good snow in November, December, and that carries them through. Because, once the snow is on the ground, unless we get several Pineapple Expresses, it's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so that is government camp. If we add in Mount Hood Meadows, you can see the that's the red. So, and you have two different averages, of course, because at Meadows the average is in the 400-inch range, a little over 400 inches for any winter, and then the blue average ski bowl, government camp and ski bowl, a little lower. So you see the average, what they got each winter with respect to average at that elevation. You can see they do a little better at the higher elevations because, I mean, once you get 200-300 inches, there's enough snow for skiing. It may not be the best quality snow that winter, but you've got enough to keep ski areas open higher up. So higher up is better in these winters.
Elevation is much more important during El Nino years, probably.
Oh, I totally agree. Totally agree. And then here's most important. What happens during those critical months where everybody wants to ski, December, January, and February? Okay. A little better news, yes and no. This is the average just during those 3 months.
Boy, there's some
the
extreme...
the last two winters were okay. 18, 19, the last two El Nino winters were okay. 2018, 2019, 2019, 20. It was above average December, January, and February. As I recall, each of those years had like 1 month that was really good. Maybe it's petered out after that or before that. Oh, yeah. 18, 19, that was when February, huge snowfall in the Cascades, but that was unusual in an El Nino year, like we discussed, to have the cold and wet. Look at those other years, though. Look how many are low.
I know, like really low.
Yeah. When I show, let me add one more thing. When I showed the total snowfall, this one back here, you said we don't see any quite that low. This was spread over the entire season. That includes sometimes in El Nino years we get cool and wet in March and April, so that would bump up the snow total. But like I said, the critical snow times right there, December, January, February, there are a lot of really low ones in there. So I'd say the risk is higher than normal for some sort of like low snowfall, during the critical part, somewhere in December, January, and February. I'm
going to leave you with my final thoughts. I'm going to let you wrap it up at the end here,
sure.
Mark. There are a lot of ways to state this, and I'm going to kind of circle back to what you previously said. You were like, okay, Jeff, you're from California. People understand what El Nino is. What do they say when El Nino pops up? And people say it's going to be a wet winter. It's going to be very rainy. I always responded to folks saying that by saying, but not always. There are years, there are outliers.
Right on.
In fact, there have been years, La Nina years, where California can get walloped by rain. So let's flip that. There, more often than not, are winters here in the Pacific Northwest in El Nino phases where we get mild conditions. The snowpack suffers, especially kind of in the lower elevations. But there are outliers as well. And we need to just keep that in mind going into this winter, that I wouldn't have high expectations for a big snowpack or big lowland snow, but don't be surprised if we get one or two events that are, kind of going against the historical trend.
I would be shocked if we had numerous low elevation snow events. That doesn't seem likely in a pattern like this.
Right. Yeah. And I'm in the outlier, the kind of like the icing on the cake is, what is that offshore, that big heat blob in the Pacific Ocean going to do to this El Nino year? How
does that do?
How is that going to affect air temperatures closer to our coastline and things like that?
Yeah. Could this be an El Nino where we get a bunch of ridging a lot during the winter and it's a drought type winter and we would get a lot of inversions and east wind through the gorge? That could happen if that big H is kind of nearby, the high pressure. But or is it one of those warm, wet El Ninos and we get a lot of flooding and mudslides? We will see. We really don't know, but we just know, well, I think we've covered it pretty well, but I think the big picture is we don't know details for the upcoming winter. My gut feeling is it's going to be a mild one in general.
Yeah. Can we circle back to that sea surface anomaly one more time? Showing the big blob of warm water in the Pacific.
Oh, I got a better one.
So one of the main reasons that our coast, like our immediate coastline, has stayed pretty cool is because of upwelling. Would you agree with me, Mark?
Yeah, right.
And that is partially because of the onshore breeze, the wind that comes inland, and that tends to sweep across our waters locally off the coast, and then the upwelling part keeps bringing cooler water essentially. But
and that's from the summertime wind too,
exactly,
which relaxes in September. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to get at, is when that onshore wind starts to relax a little bit, do we start to see more of that warm water kind of work its way closer to our coastline is the question.
I think we've seen a little bit of that. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh no, I'm going to share something different.
And I think that can have a big impact on overnight temperatures. We've seen a lot of warmer nights, both summertime, wintertime, partially because of the urban heat island effect. But, you know, sea surface temperatures do play into that as well. Even out along the immediate coastline, some of the nights have been warmer at times. You know, in Newport.
Let me try one last
Seaside.
graphic here.
Okay. I'll stop
tab.
rambling for a sec.
No, that's okay. You better keep talking because I can't do two things at once.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of factors play into our local weather, but El Nino is going to have probably a big say in what goes on this winter. And historically speaking, we don't tend to see the goods for the weather nerds.
Yeah.
Mark's
I
working.
can't find it now. Yeah, it takes too long. I can't figure it out. Oh, maybe I can. You're doing a great job treading water there, Jeff.
Yeah.
Here we go. I think I got it.
Okay, cool.
It'll take a second to come up. Let me know when you can see it.
And by the way, thanks to everybody for sticking with us, just listening as opposed to seeing the video portion. Go ahead.
Can you see it?
Oh yeah, that's the. Is that an anomaly map?
Yeah, this is I'm sorry. This is the actual temperature map,
Okay.
which it's in Celsius, so it's not quite as cold. Through most of the summer, we saw the purples and the blues, like right up all the way along the coastline. It's just we're not seeing as much of the cold stuff. Basically, I think the upwelling has relaxed quite a bit the last week or so, since we're just not getting the strong northwest wind. But we've got plus 18 or plus 19 temperatures pretty widespread offshore. What is that? That's like 64, 65, 67 degrees Fahrenheit. So we would assume, like you said, as that upwelling goes away here in the next few weeks, mostly goes away, I bet you we get the 63, 64, 65 degree temps more commonly along the coastline, I would think.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting stuff.
So hopefully you were able to take something from this discussion, because, you know,
we hope so.
Yeah, we've seen some outlets put out the Farmer's Almanac and really make a big deal out of it. And the bottom line is we don't know how this winter is exactly going to play out. I mean, we can look at
some
oscillations.
Some ideas.
And, we can look at how history has played out before, you know, but bottom line is we don't know. We can just give you our thoughts. So those are some clues. But yeah, enjoy the next 5 to 7 days, 5 to 10 days. Man, I don't see any big changes coming anytime soon. No big soakers, no extreme heat. We're in the sweet spot, prime time, the Goldilocks zone here in the Pacific.
That's right,
Northwest.
Jeff. And you enjoy your week off. I'm going to take control next week. We'll see how that goes. And I think we've got Camilla and maybe Katie coming on next week. So it'll be me and the ladies, and we should have some good discussion about weather.
Yeah, and thanks to everybody that's been circling back and listening. It sounds like we're gaining some traction, some momentum here with the podcast. Hopefully we start to get a little bit more weather that we can report on. But enjoy this great weather. And Mark will be back next week. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll talk to you soon.
Please tell us